All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're a little bit tardy. Apologize for that. This is the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, October 16th, 2024 meeting. I am Dr. Carolyn Smith. We have co-chair here and we have a full quorum. It's nice to see everybody.
Microphone. Okay.
It was fun. So we are going to call this meeting to order. And we have one emergency accommodation, but that we're gonna put that into where?
The second.
Second.
Yes.
Yep. All right, so agenda item number 2, statement for just cause and or consideration of a request to participate remotely, emergency circumstances, if applicable. Do we have any emergency circumstances for just cause?
Good. Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that would be me. Emergency. I'm requesting emergency. I'm here alone. Nobody with me.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstains? It's approved. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Agenda item number 3, we are going to vote on September's meeting minutes. So everybody should have a copy. Thank you, Todd, for the meeting minutes for September 18th. Do we have any comment on those?
We did not see a disability, it indicated there was gonna be a disability related list from Jessica coming to Todd to us.
We haven't gotten that yet, but we'll
Okay.
certainly
I just
provide it
wanted to
once it's
clarify
available.
because I missed it. Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion?
I move to approve the September 18th minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Those opposed? Any abstains? All right, that carries. Thank you. We are going at agenda item number 4. Hello.
Thank you, Tom.
We have Jessica and Battle Buddy here. So agenda item number 4, members of the public may address a county issue not elsewhere on this agenda. Each speaker may take up to 2 minutes. Speakers may be limited to less time if several speakers have requested to speak on the same issue. The Committee for Persons with Disabilities is prohibited by the Brown Act from acting on or voting on any issue that is not already on the agenda unless deemed to be urgent. Do we have any non-agenda comments from the committee? Anybody online that is joining us? Mary, anyone else? Do you have any guests? No. All right. Thank you so much. We are now going to go to Behavioral Health Services, agenda item number 5, our care court presentation.
And I'll share that presentation in a couple seconds. And then introduce our speakers that are representing Behavioral Health Services. Dr. Michael Krelston, Diane Ashton, and Amber Irvine, all from the County of San Diego Behavioral Health Services, to speak on the care program overview.
Got a 20-minute timer on that one, if they would like to start.
Good afternoon, folks. Can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. We are very pleased and excited to have this opportunity to share with you some amazing work which is being done in our Care Act program. I am Michael Krelstein. My role is Clinical Director for Behavioral Health Services, and I have the very good fortune of being in a supportive role to this program, which is more directly run and managed by Diane Ashton, and in particular by Amber Irvine. And so I am going to be listening intently and available to answer questions and maybe provide some additional commentary. But at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Diane Ashton for any of her remarks, and then to Amber Irvine for our presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Carlstein, and thank you everyone for having us here this afternoon. My name is Diane Ashton. As mentioned before, I am the Assistant Medical Services Administrator with the County of San Diego BHS. I currently oversee both the CARE Act program and the Public Conservator's Office. Now I'll hand it over to Amber so she can introduce herself. Amber.
Thank you so much, Diane, and thank you for having us here today. So I'm just going to go through the brief presentation here, really just an overview. We want to allow the majority of the time to answer any questions that you all may have. So as mentioned, I am the program coordinator for the Behavioral Health Services operated Community Assistance Recovery and Empowerment Program. And this program is most commonly known as the CARE Act and was signed into law by Governor Newsom in September of 2022, and was launched in 7 pilot counties in October of 2023, with the remaining 51 counties in California going live in December of this year. So lots more counties coming on board and ramping up. And really this program was designed to create a new pathway for connecting people to voluntary treatment if they meet the criteria. It's really meant to help people remain at the least restrictive setting, prevent things like conservatorship or incarcerations by providing the community-based wraparound support that individuals need to be able to achieve and maintain stability in the community. All right, if we can go to the next slide. So the CARE program criteria is laid out here. Again, it is intended for adults. It is unique in that it's specifically intended for those diagnosed with schizophrenia or other psychotic disorders in that class. So that is a small subset of the behavioral health population as a whole. It's meant for individuals who are not currently engaged in treatment. So we do receive a lot of referrals for individuals who might be open to various treatment programs, but that wouldn't disqualify them if they're not really engaged in the treatment, or potentially it's not the correct level of care to be able to meet their needs. So they also would need to meet the program criteria for the program we're referring to. Most commonly, that's assertive community treatment, which is, again, intensive community-based support. Another criteria is that there needs to be a likelihood that they may benefit from being engaged in the program. And that court oversight piece is really one of the main differences. Is the court is really there to ensure that the individual is getting the services that behavioral health services has identified is a need for them. And lastly, just to clarify, the individual who is referred may be unhoused, but is not a requirement. So that's one of the common misconceptions about CARE, is that it is a housing program or intended specifically for individuals experiencing homelessness. But actually, currently, our numbers most recently we're down to 34% of the petitions that we've received have been experiencing homelessness at the time the petition is filed. So again, I think some people are surprised by that statistic, but certainly not intended only for unhoused individuals. Next slide, please.
Just give me a second. I'm navigating several different windows.
No problem at all. Thank you so much. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is kind of a high level overview of the care process. So it does start with the referral, and a referral is made to care by filing a petition with the Superior Court. So the court is actually the front and only door to access care services. So once that petition is filed, it is sent to the presiding judge to review the petition and determine if it appears to meet the criteria for the program. Once that is established, and I will also add that so far the court has received in San Diego 207 petitions, and only 6 of those have not moved forward and made that initial determination, which is great because then at that point it's sent on to BHS to do a more robust investigation and to really put in concerted effort in building rapport, getting to know the individual, identifying what their goals are, what their needs are, and being able to provide those. So that next stage of number 3 is really where a lot of that work happens. Oftentimes the individual.
She's using acronyms. Can she explain the acronym, something like BHS?
Is your microphone on? There's a question, Amber, there was a, I guess there was an acronym, BHS is Behavioral Health Services.
Yes, behavioral health services, exactly. I apologize. I'll try to be mindful of that moving forward. But yes, behavioral health services is the party that once that petition is sent, it is our team of clinicians and peer support specialists and case managers that go out and do that that initial investigation and building rapport. So once they're able to build that rapport with the individual, which can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, we really meet people where they're at and try to identify what their goals are and just start from there. So then that's where the next piece comes in. Once we're able to establish that they meet the eligibility criteria for the program, we work with them collaboratively to develop their care agreement. The slide indicates care agreement / plan. There is an avenue of a care plan, which is has more court oversight and is more kind of heavily monitored. So far in San Diego and the plan moving forward, we have all care agreements, and we have been able to enter into 69 care agreements up to this point. So once that agreement is developed collaboratively with the participant, the public defender goes out with the clinician for a nice warm introduction and handoff so that the public defender is able to review all of their rights so that they are very clear that this is a voluntary program, that they're not being court mandated to treatment, that the court is really there to hold BHS accountable or behavioral health services accountable, and not in a punitive fashion. So I think that's a really nice piece about care is that for individuals who have experienced the justice system before, this is really a paradigm shift where they're at the head of the table and they're there to be heard and seen, and their needs are of the utmost importance to everybody in the room. So after the care agreement is entered into and adopted by the court, the individual is connected to services. And sometimes that does happen prior to the care agreement being adopted by the court, especially if housing is indicated as a need. We do try to utilize other resources available to connect the individual to housing as soon as possible. So once they're connected to services, we have ongoing status review hearings approximately every 60 days to monitor their progress, monitor their needs, and just to check in to make sure that BHS is providing those services, or Behavioral Health Services is providing those services. Okay, next slide, please.
Okay, let me see if I can get it. Let's try something else here. All right, still working at it.
Maybe while you're doing that, if anybody has questions up to this point, maybe we can fill the time with a question or two. While Tom figures that out. Does anyone have a question at this point? So we can fill some space. Oh, great, thanks, Dennis.
Just a
Hmm.
clarification, my understanding is, it sounded like 99% of the petitions that have been filed have been accepted, and those people are in the care program at this point. The numbers that you said were 300 something.
So 207 petitions, 69 care agreements.
Oh, that's.
Yes. I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing, but I think from what I'm picking up, there's a question about the number of petitions versus the number of care agreements.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are a number of individuals who a petition is filed for, and the case is subsequently dismissed for a variety of reasons. And those reasons might include that it's determined that they're not actually eligible for the program due to the diagnostic criteria or not meeting other criteria for program eligibility. Or it could be dismissed because they prefer to go a route in treatment and be connected to services without the court oversight, and will absolutely honor their preferences and connect them to the services that they are willing to accept. So those cases end up being dismissed. And then we have a number of individuals who after repeated efforts of building rapport and engaging, they decline the services. So we will dismiss those cases because, again, this is a fully voluntary program.
Okay, great, thank you. The next slide is up if you want to go ahead.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. So once I already started speaking about this a little bit, but once the care agreement is adopted by the court, the participants begin to receive the services that are identified on their plan for up to a 12-month period. And then at that 12-month mark, the year mark, it's determined collaboratively, again, if the individual may benefit from longer period of time in the program up to an additional year. And with care agreements, only the initial status review hearing is required. However, with the care plans, it is required to every 60 days. However, we found in our county that it's really most beneficial to be checking in with individuals closer to the every 60-day mark, just to make sure that everything is on track and their needs are being met. Once it gets to the 1-year mark or the 2-year mark, a graduation hearing is held, which is a very uplifting and person-centered process where everybody who has participated in the individual's care comes to the table, and we really celebrate the participants' successes that they've been able to achieve. Next slide, please.
Do you see the common claims about the program?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. So lastly here, we just wanted to address some of the more common misconceptions that we hear about the CARE program. So the first one is that the CARE Act will mandate treatment. There is a difference between mandated treatment and voluntary treatment. And this is a voluntary program. So there is no enforcement mechanism in place if the individual decides that they don't want to participate, or if they're not able to successfully complete the program. The next point is that the CARE program is for anyone with a behavioral health condition or who struggles with serious mental illness. The CARE Act was really developed for a very small group of people. Like I previously mentioned, those who are diagnosed with schizophrenia or another psychotic disorder in the class. And lastly, which I also touched on earlier, the program misconception that it's specifically designed for individuals experiencing homelessness. And that is not the case. Homelessness is not a criteria to be eligible for the program. So just wanted to address those, and we can go on to the next slide, which I believe is the last one. And just to provide more information or areas where you can access more information, we do have our access and crisis line for behavioral health services. And this really can connect you to any of the services in the system of care or provide information on any of the services available, the CARE Act included. Next, we have Legal Aid Society that has a line directly for CARE Act information and assistance. And lastly, our BHS, Behavioral Health Services CARE website that has more information and resources there. So now that we've provided that overview, we can go ahead and open it up to questions that anyone may have.
That's perfect because you were right on time. You had to have done this once or twice. I just have two questions for you. And you stated that it's a voluntary program. Are there any instances where a medication is involuntarily given?
No,
No, okay.
there is not.
And my other question was, is there a formal ADA interactive process? What is it and can we review it? How do we review it?
Yes, absolutely. The treatment providers in our system of care are the holders of the ADA protocols, specifically around like different housing accommodations, transportation accommodations. All of those things are taken into account. Is there anything else you want to add, Dr. K or Diane, for our system of care?
Nothing for me, pretty much covers it, but thank you.
Yeah.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
Early on, you mentioned that there was pretty intense community involvement with this. And what does that exactly entail? What community involvement does that entail?
Yeah, so community-based connecting with the individual. So sometimes the petitions that we receive have information that helps us reach out and engage with the individual who is petitioned. And sometimes those individuals are experiencing homelessness. So our team goes out into the field to into the community to reach out to the person, begin to build rapport, explain to them what care is, what the process looks like, and build that relationship to connect them to the appropriate services. And then other community involvement, we've certainly engaged the community a great deal just to educate about care as a new piece in the continuum of care and behavioral health services, and address any questions similar to what we're doing today. And we also work with a variety of community partners, contractors, resources. So there is a lot of community involvement in the care process.
Mhm.
So,
Like caseworkers, things like that,
Yeah.
casework, yeah, okay, thank you.
so I just wanted to reiterate, so your ADA interactive process, where do we go and review that? Where is that at? Is that on your, webpage? Is that, where is that we can actually review it?
Yeah, I would have to look into that and get back to you. Is Todd, are you the most appropriate person to email that to?
Yes,
yeah.
you can send that to me.
Okay, great.
That'd be great. Anybody else?
Hello. Well, one of the questions I have, there's the reinforcement of the CARE Act process being completely voluntary. And when asked if somebody could be involuntarily medicated, I just want to clarify that it's not just about the care team involuntarily medicating somebody, but could you explain a little more about the process of when the care team calls for a mental health 72-hour hold assessment, potentially from PERT, the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team, and they then use an example of a recipient's voluntary choice to say no to something the care team is providing as evidence of grave disability and an inability for them to meet their own needs, when they are asserting that they're looking for a more culturally competent option, or are trying to get an alternative to care or treatment that has honored or is very straightforward about ADA accommodations, cultural competency, including people's rights to alternatives that are more in line with their disability, and the culture of their disability. So what I'm asking is, even though the care team can't necessarily involuntarily medicate somebody, can they call for a assessment from the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team and use that person's voluntary wish to seek an alternative treatment or medical or mental health option as evidence of them being gravely disabled?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team is a separate program within our system of care. And they would be contacted in events where the clinician from the treatment team or someone from the treatment team may be interacting with a person and they have concerns about their safety, or the safety of others in the community. So those assessments, the care team does not put individuals on involuntary treatment holds. That whole process happens through the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team, who the care team does have the option and access to call for that team to come out if they are concerned about an individual's safety. But the process that happens thereafter, if they are put on a treatment hold, is really separate from care. And that treatment hold would be only if the individual is experiencing symptoms or behaviors that put, as I mentioned, either themselves at significant risk or the others in the community.
I have a really quick follow-up question on that. Do you have the numbers of how many times that a you have an interaction, your team has an interaction, you've called the PERT team has, involuntarily, given the person, medication or whatnot. Do you have those statistics?
Not right at hand, but that is something that I could look into and again, follow up on.
That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thanks so much.
I do know that since the start of care, and I can provide this exact number in that follow-up as well, but the presence of the care program has been able to help significantly reduce the number of psychiatric emergency response team and other crisis resource calls than prior to when the individuals were in the care program. So that the presence of the care program and the assertive community treatment that they're receiving is actually significantly decreasing the number of times that those crisis services are being utilized for this population.
That's awesome. The other question I just thought of is that if somebody has a care plan that includes, say, Section 8 housing, does your program usurp their ability to get housing if you're trying to house them? Is there some sort of priority or overstep or whatever that term you choose to use, so that, say, for example, somebody has housing, they haven't gotten it yet, they're at the top of the list somewhere, they're about to get it, but something along the way that your team wants to do with them will put them in a position where they may lose that housing slot. Is that something that happens with you guys?
Just to clarify, did you say they may lose that housing slot or use?
Lose, sorry.
Lose. Oh, no problem. I just want to make sure I understand the question. The care program is able to prioritize participants or respondents for certain resources available. For example, we have short-term bridge housing available, which are county contracted independent living facilities where we're able to prioritize participants who are experiencing homelessness to get them directly connected to those beds. So similarly to how like a hospital triages the sickest patients first, that's kind of how care is viewed, as these are some of the most vulnerable people in our community. So we're able to prioritize them for certain resources. If you're referring more to like Section 8 and other types of housing resources, that is a separate process. But the assertive community treatment team that works with the individual includes a significant amount of case management that could help them navigate through those difficult and sometimes complicated housing programs to try to move them forward.
Great, thanks. I just had gotten some feedback in the last couple of months from some folks that are inside of that your program. And it just seems like there was more than one time that they were on the list, high on the list for Section 8 housing, and the short-term bridge housing was thereby proxy removing them from the list on the Section 8 housing. So short-term, they were getting housing, but it really, put them at a disadvantage because they really need long-term housing, and it removed them or slotted them down further the list. So I just want to, not that you're not aware of that, but it's vital that when we talk short-term for, especially our disabled community, short-term is fantastic, but your whole goal is long-term, right? Long-term total care. So, so what I'd also want to know, if you can follow back up with us, is I want to know if there's programs that your short-term care puts a damper on long-term care, because that's something that's really important, that if that's something that's there, we want to be able to talk about it and sort of distill it a little bit more and make sure that somebody who, for example, is on Section 8 housing list that's a long-term solution, right? We want long-term solutions, and short-term solutions are fantastic, but we don't want them to impede, you know, the longevity of the person's success, so.
Hi, Diane here. I have a question because I want to make sure I understand. So you're saying that someone that was placed in short-term bridge housing lost their place on the wait list for Section 8 housing?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what one has to do with the other.
Well,
So,
no, that's what I'm asking you. I don't, you know, I'm from the veteran sector, so I don't have the answer for you. That's why I was asking you for the answer.
because I would like to get more information about that so we could follow up on that because that doesn't seem accurate.
May be helpful if you have that person's, not now in this, but if you have the ability to share the specific,
Sure, and the person.
not
and
right now,
persons, Yeah,
but-
so in the persons with an S, they don't want to.
with,
they don't-
I mean, to actually share it, offline,
Yeah.
directly with the department so that they can look at that particular case, because it's actually a couple different departments, so it would be housing that would have to look as well. So if you want to, look at those specific cases, then we can definitely look at that.
Yeah, that would be great. And if they choose not to come forward, maybe this is just a way to open up that dialogue about hopefully your program doesn't counteract long-term solutions with short-term solutions. Hopefully that's, I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying, hey, I don't know if you're aware, this is just what the feedback is from as a disability advocate on my end.
Yeah,
thank
well, thank you so much for bringing that forward because that would be counter to what we would be trying to do.
Thank you for seeing it that way. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to, this is Michelle, I thought the CARE program wasn't going into effect until this January. Isn't this the program that the county put off for a year?
Michelle, I think you're referencing SB 43, which is coming up this January. So CarePort and SB 43, while they're kind of part of a legislative trend towards a change in how mental health services and legislation and laws go on police enforcement, they're two separate things.
Okay, so CARE Court is not related to the CARE program.
I think the reason you might be saying it is because we have a pamphlet. Did everyone see this?
I didn't see
The
it.
SB, okay, there's an SB 43 and CARE Court document that's from Disability Rights California. And what we've seen is an overwhelming majority of disability rights organizations, including the state advocacy group Disability Rights California, coming together with opposition, concern, and court cases in order to express their concern that both SB 43 and CARE Court are infringing upon the rights of not only people with disabilities, but disproportionately people of color.
Okay, but this is not related to what she is speaking about at this time. Is that accurate? Jessica?
I think so, Michelle.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Amber, for your time. Hopefully you and our experts over here with Cure Court, Jessica, have worked together and continue to work together. We look forward to your replies to the inquiries. Does anybody else have anything? Anybody online or anybody?
Well, real quick, since we have a list of things that Amber and Diane and Michael can come back to us with, it would be great if we could get a list of who in the CARE Court process is a mandatory reporter and what type of additional training they're getting, being that people in CARE Court are elders and dependent adults under the law and therefore have special protections. So what kind of additional training are our stakeholders receiving on senior and disability victimization, and who specifically is a mandatory reporter and who is not?
And this is why I hope Cure Court is working very closely with Jessica, because she is our resident expert.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jessica. I will look into that as well. Add it to the list.
Thank you, Amber.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon, this is Humberto, and thank you for the presentation. This would be just a general comment for other presentations. I respectfully ask that all presenters be here if possible. If they just be in person would be great. That'd be just a general comment for all.
Yeah, and that's a great comment because this is a very diverse group committee, with a range of disabilities. And we may be, ever so slightly a little bit more sensitive, to those not, standing before us for a whole host of reasons. So, if you guys, present next time, we'd love to have you present in person. Great point, thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. Absolutely.
And also just one final thought, I think this would be a great periodical presentation, maybe a couple times a year. Just to, see how this program is moving along, that'd be great as well.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to do that. It is a complex program that is kind of ever evolving. So we'd be happy to revisit and provide any updates and answer any additional questions.
I would just be really interested in how it's going to interact with CareCore after January 1st.
Outstanding. Anyone else? Going. Anyone online? Mary?
One of the things, I know that, Umberto, thank you for bringing that up. This is one of the components that makes up the care program, if you will. So, there will be other components that will be presenting. So it may not be from behavioral health services, it may be from public defender, et cetera. So, given that the committee determines we want to hear from these other stakeholders in the process, there will certainly be more presentations.
Well, if there's nothing else, Amber, I appreciate your time, and to your colleagues as well. Thank you for the information, and we look forward to the emails to give us a little bit more insight. And we'd love to have you come back and update us whenever that is applicable.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, we're gonna move on to agenda item number 6, which is our ADA accommodation request process. Jessica.
Oh, gosh, that's wonderful. Yeah, so
It'd be better if you turned the mic on.
Oh, yes, I love this topic. So I think in the last meeting, we came up with a way to merge some of the conversations we were having around the county's aging and independent services, in-home health supportive services department, as well as the ADA interactive process with behavioral health services. So moving forward, I believe our goal and our plan is to be working as a committee to make recommendations about the ADA interactive process to county departments, starting with aging and independent services and behavioral health services, something that is a formal process titled the ADA interactive process, of which our expert over here knows and has helped guided me and our group on. And that is it. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Questions, comments, concerns? All right, agenda item number 7, qualifying for disability special considerations and protection under the law. Jessica.
Yes, I actually completed it, sent myself a version of it last night, and meant to this morning send it over to Todd, but it is very much fresh in my mind. And I will have it to Todd this afternoon, and then hopefully he can help get it out to the rest of the group. Essentially what I did was made a very brief, inclusive, but not limited to list of for law enforcement and prosecutors of how to help verify if the person in front of them qualifies as a person with a disability entitled to the special protections and considerations under the Senior and Disability Victimization and Hate Crime laws, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act. So the 4 legislative measures I emphasized were the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Senate Bill 338 Senior and Disability Justice Act, the AB 449 Hate Crime updated legislation that has a special emphasis on people with disabilities, including those with disabilities due to advanced age or aging. And the fourth was SB 43, which is a behavioral health law that Michelle was referencing to, that goes into effect this January 2025, expanding the definition of grave disability to include severe substance disorder and adding 2 criteria to the list of what a person needs to be able to provide for themselves to be considered not gravely disabled, which is housing, food, clothing, and now the addition of adequate medical care and personal safety. And this is really where we get into a sticky situation with disability rights, because when you look at something like self-neglect versus neglect, self-neglect can really only be identified if the person has all of the elements that they would need to have health and safety. If they are not being accommodated, if the support systems in place, the medical care, the caregiving, if those alternatives are not being provided to that individual, and therefore their activities, daily living, or their ability to meet those 5 particular criteria for grave disability, then what they need is advocacy, they need accommodation, and they need for those elements of health and safety to be provided. It's only once the individual has access to everything they need for their health and safety, but they're not using it, is when it becomes a report of self-neglect. And I would say similarly, an elder or a dependent or disabled adult, a senior or a disabled individual who is not having their needs met through the mandatory social supports, and they're being victimized, but law enforcement isn't, for whatever reason, moving that forward and providing victim advocacy and justice for the individual. We want to get them those accommodations and the victimization support. We don't want to blame them for being now gravely disabled and at risk of losing their civil rights and being involuntarily committed. And I'm emphasizing this more and more because in my last 2 years of being an advocate, and having people call me when they feel like they have nowhere else to go and no one else to tell their story to, and they're desperate for help, is that there are a host of medications that are used in the involuntary process. And again, I want to reiterate, medication has a very, very important time and place for people. And in no way do I want people to have less access to medication, but there are scientific studies that are, database driven. We care about science, we care about medical reports, and there's even one medical study that asks, when somebody is being given certain antipsychotics and they are then therefore one of the dangerous potential side effects is losing your speech. And it's a very well-known side effect. And when I read this study, it talked about whose speech should we be trying to preserve when we're assessing who is appropriate for this medication, considering the risks and the benefits. And they talked about people in high positions, high paying jobs, doctors, people who have, positions of significance in our society. But while I was reading this and having been somebody that individuals who have lost their speech or mobility or developed terrible tics and Tourette's-like symptoms after an involuntary hold, even just a single hold and even just a single initial dose of medication at the beginning of the hospitalization, I'm thinking, who needs their speech more than the most vulnerable people in our society? And as I was part of the SB 43 stakeholder meetings, as not only a person of lived experience, but I hope as somebody who has some lived expertise in terms of disability rights and disability victimization, law enforcement was very clear, as were people that work in mental health and LPS designated facilities or in our nursing and hospital teams and paramedics, that one of the things they look for is for the individual to be able to make a clear, articulate plan for how they are meeting or able to meet their needs. And right away, if we have somebody who just because of having this disability prior to or coming out of some of our hospitalization system with this type of disability, what I'm seeing so much and what we need extra protection and attention for is making sure that we're not blaming the people who have already been injured for their injury and their inability to articulate, and then therefore subjecting them to more involuntary treatment, and it is a snowball situation. And so I've learned about all sorts of different ADA accommodations and auxiliary aids. And while we're so familiar with an ADA paper format, large font copy, and we're so familiar with a deaf or hard of hearing interpreter, one thing we're not used to is a speech interpreter, which is an approved and accepted auxiliary aid. So, you know, I would love to be having conversations with stakeholders and doing trainings with law enforcement where we're incorporating just as much we are somebody who's hard of hearing, which is just a mandated policy for law enforcement. We're also considering, and this is equally important in behavioral health, PERT calls, MCRT, mobile crisis response team calls. If somebody has a speech disability, rather than assuming they're drunk or under the influence or whatever, you know, misperceptions happen in that moment, like really giving that time and space and working through the person's disability symptoms to get to their clear plan that they have, but because of their disabilities, they're just not able to articulate.
Is that a certified interpreter kind of position? I think it's a great idea. I just never, I have friends with multiple sclerosis and it's really difficult.
Through the 711, which is the line you can call if you have someone that's deaf and you want to communicate with them, instead of the old TTY systems, they have speech individuals as well. And you can call 711 and say, I need an interpreter for speech for someone that has a disability regarding their speech and is difficult to understand. And they will do a 3-way call for you. I don't know anything else otherwise, but I know that they exist. And I don't know what they're certified or called or, you know, where to hire somebody locally, but I know we can find that out.
What was the number again?
711.
It's 711.
So it'd be 711 pound, right?
I don't know. I think
Because I
it's
think
just
it's
711.
Is it just 711?
I had a follow-up with Jessica. So the checklist that you have, not a problem. Are there, how many items, how many elements are
So
on
it's
that?
approximately 10, and it's anything from, does the individual have a caregiver or caregiving for any of their activities of daily living? Or do they need one? Because just because they don't have one, but they need one, well, that's also significant. Do they have a ADA trained service animal? Do they have a disability parking placard? Do they have any disability specific housing or subsidized housing?
And this is a separate, list from what I had crafted, right? Is this the add-on?
Well, this is what I feel like what you provided was an incredible wealth of knowledge of all sorts of ways that unique disabilities law enforcement would not be familiar with, can broaden their perspective of how different disabilities look and what they're based in and what they are. I mean, just broadening the encyclopedia of knowledge. And this specifically would be something I would hope would just be a regular part of what training we don't have yet, which is the senior and disability victimization training for law enforcement. Something that we're definitely hoping to work on in our partnership with the district attorney moving forward, and also our partnership with the sheriffs. But right now we have these incredible laws. But when the average patrolman or deputy is involved in a situation where they're in front of somebody and they just can't see that the person is overtly, completely, totally, unarguably disabled, they have absolutely no way. It's not in the policy. It's not in the training. They have no guidance that says, how can you ask these questions to this person or look around for clues with this person to let you know this person has a qualified disability. And as a result, we need to open our lens towards the elder dependent adult senior disability victimization policy, towards the disability hate crime bias motivation, which is a mandatory part of the new hate crime bill and the senior and disability victimization. If officers have no idea if the person that they're looking at has a disability, then that person will not be included in justice. And that's what we're all
So,
here fighting for.
Jessica, you were naming some of the
Yes.
items on the checklist.
Yes.
So now that we have, because we do have, fortunately, we have district attorney that representatives that have stayed over and wanted to hear more specifics about what the checklist would be so that they can speak to the committee. I don't know if you want to speak to the committee about, because one of the questions was, how can this information be used? How will the district attorney use this information? And so we're evolving. So we've got a better idea about what the checklist is. We also have the list of invisible disabilities. And so having an idea about that, if you all, does anybody want to speak to that? I don't
And
know
I
if
want to add two things that are really important. Jessica and I both have a very similar goal of getting this information into post-certification. I come from law enforcement and military, retired law enforcement and military. So I come from the side of that, and then of course of the disability side. So for me, my whole goal is to get both of these items into your post-certification, and what we're trying to do is shape it and mold it in a way that makes sense to you. And I think Todd was kind enough to do that email, I think it was last week, whatnot, so that we could shape these disability lists and understanding the time constraints on each individual stop that an enforcement officer has, knowing, hey, I don't have 27 minutes to have this whole dialogue with somebody. So help us help you with the understanding of knowing we want this in your post-certification, because this is both coming from two good places to help the law enforcement at least dial it down 1/10 of a millimeter in how you know, the stress and anxiety already is on a stop to, you know, in the law enforcement practice.
Thank you so much. Yola Palatay with the District Attorney's Office, or Director of Government and Community Affairs. So thank you, Dr. Smith and Jessica, for all your work on this. I know that we've been working with the committee since last year to do a number of different things to raise awareness and to help and enhance law enforcement's understanding of the struggles and the challenges and opportunities to work with people with disabilities. So yes, so we're working on a number of different things, right? We just finished doing a set of different awareness videos, lived experience. I'm happy to report that, but we can go into that at another time. I do know that we do have some involvement and influence over some of the post-certified trainings, and Marla's going to be going into a little bit more of that, but I do want to caution us, you know, just to, when we list the disabilities, and we definitely don't want to exclude anybody. So we want to figure out a way that we could, you know, provide law enforcement with, you know, an understanding of some of them, or perhaps direct them to a place where they can, you know, look at a long list of them without just limiting it to some of them. And at the same time, incorporate some of the important information that Jessica just provided. So I'll turn it over to my colleague Marla, who is more involved in the training aspect of things, and she can talk about our role when it comes to those trainings and what we is in our lane and not in our lane when it comes to those post-certified items.
So good afternoon, Marla Kincaid with the District Attorney's Office. And for those of you that helped us this afternoon on the videos, thank you. And we know that there are others that want to do that and will connect and reschedule those times. So the whole purpose of the videos is to provide an awareness to our first responders. And as I listened to some of you talk today for the training video, I see an opportunity to expand it not just to our public safety partners, but to our EMS and our fire. It's going to be a great training awareness video. It really is an awareness video. In regards to post, there sounds like there's two different documents, one that Jessica's put together and a list, Dr. Smith, that you have put together. And there's an opportunity for us to share it with post, to share it with our law enforcement partners. Like you, we can't mandate post. I don't speak for post. I can't mandate what post will or will not adopt, but we would love to see those lists and that document, and how can they possibly be, partnered with that video to provide awareness. I think, Dr. Smith, you bring up a really good point. We want to give the information to our first responders, to give them that awareness, to have the best contact, to be able to identify, as you said, Jessica, can they identify in order to wrap the necessary services and support with that person that they are contacting. With that being said, you also mentioned it very clearly, there's limited time. And so how do we do that? I think this is going to be an ongoing project, a thoughtful project. I think the only thing I can say is kind of stay tuned. I think our first step is the videos. And let's see, and thank you for doing that. I think they are going to have an impact with our first responders, and I can see also with our fire EMS. So.
How do you have a connection with fire EMS?
They have contacted me over the time that I've been with the district attorney's office on de-escalation training and communication training. And so I've had the privilege of doing some trainings with our fire EMS. It's not as ongoing or as consistent, but I've been able to do that and share training videos. So if I was to go up to some of their trainers with our product of our awareness video that we're putting together now and give it to them on a thumb drive, I could see them being very appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Anything to learn.
Yeah, because fire and EMS can't go into a scene that's not been secured by law enforcement.
Right.
So for them to have as much education as possible that relays to the law enforcement that's coming, because I don't know the percentages, but it's got to be more than 60% of the time EMS and fire arrive before law enforcement dependent. Right. And so the more information they can relay and push back to their partner makes the scene ability to secure that scene quicker and help who needs their life-saving care. So it's all integral.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen in other areas when we promote that coordination between our public safety and our EMS, we get really good results out of that, and it comes from training.
Yeah.
Does the EMS include Falk? Or is it the
Does
county?
EMS include what?
Falk ambulance?
They are oftentimes involved. They have a contract with the city of San Diego, so the EMS, the Falk paramedics are oftentimes in that training.
Is that city and not county? Or private company?
Yeah, they're a private ambulance company.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because I know that fire is not related per se to the county, and they all in different cities.
Oh,
has their own
absolutely.
Fire department, and
Absolutely.
California
Yeah.
has its own
Yeah.
training.
Yeah, it's a very large system, so absolutely. But sharing a training video is an easy, thoughtful thing to do.
As always, I'm always appreciative that you come here and thank you for being here. This is a very important partnership that everybody on this board is committed to helping in any way we can, because it also helps us to advise, you know, the board of supervisors. So we look forward to continued partnerships with both of you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
It truly is a team effort, so thank you for your
absolutely.
partnership.
Thank you. All right, now we have another important piece, and I am so stoked. That's a technical term. Agenda item number 8 is the nomination and election of committee secretary. Come on, everyone, okay. This is a very important job, because up to this point in time, we haven't had a secretary, I believe. And it puts the onus on myself and lovely Jeanette here, and of course Katie. And we really need somebody who understands that, you know, the breadth of this slot is so important to both of us. So important to Todd and Katie, but it's really important to Jeanette and I. So we really want somebody who is in it to win it, knows it's, you know, kind of a slog, and is still so super excited to help us out and be part of this chair board committee thingy.
The duties again, duties?
So duties of the secretary are going to include, and these I believe are also inside of the bylaws. But they're going to be, of course, our record keeper. And that will kind of trickle down into emails perhaps. But of course we get most of them from Katie. And then meeting minutes, it's sort of a mirror of what Katie is doing, and maybe it's things more relatable to our side, and not necessarily to their side, things that we could talk about. And then making cool drawings, being supportive, being cheerful, bringing coffee for themselves and then for us. And just, you know, traditional secretary duties, again, that are to me incredibly important.
And this person would participate in the debrief meetings that the chair and the vice chair have with staff, as well as the agenda preparation meetings that the chair and vice chair have with staff. So it'll be, and those are virtual meetings, so they're teleconference meetings, but that would be some of the time commitment, and then as well drafting of correspondence.
Right, so, and off of what Todd just said, that means for an hour, a week before and a week after board meetings, you'll get online with all of us. 90% of the time, I'm not on video because, you know, I just woke up. So if you don't have to, you can keep your PJs on and all the great stuff, and drink a coffee and your Monster and your Red Bull, and all those things in the comfort of your home. But it's also about the communications. We have, every time somebody comes to visit us, it's kind of my policy that they need to be a certificate of recognition. So we have one here, we'll show it to you guys. Just so that it encourages folks not only to come back, but hey, we actually appreciate it. So that person will also be responsible for you know, crafting, not necessarily printing them out, because Todd could do that, but
Thank you letter.
thank you
is
letters,
really the-
appreciation, letters of appreciation, inquiry letter, and then anything that we submit forward to the board of supervisors.
And I think our goal is really to have templates for those, that we're not reinventing the wheel.
Right, and
Every single time we have a format for a thank you.
we are
Which
not,
is mostly what I think it would be.
yeah,
right?
we're not trying to make exactly what she said. We are not reinventing the wheel. You're not creating things from scratch unless you are so like Elon Musk and you're like, I'm gonna do
I
this.
know.
And I like it. So if you, we have a lot of templates already, and then if there's something that's out of the box that we haven't thought of, we'll find a template and we'll engage with Todd and Katie to craft a template. So we don't want even with the yearly, what's the word?
The annual
Annual
report.
Annual report, right? We don't want somebody to recraft that from start. We want it to come from a historical place, and a cut and paste, because we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
Right?
Not
So
about making
I'm not
it.
here to waste your time. I'm not here to overburden anybody, but we actually need that support, and we should have been required the entire time to have a secretary, because it's part and parcel of having an executive staff. And we've never had that, and we're over it. We need a full executive staff to help us out. So with that being said, I would like nominations, please. And if anybody's gonna nominate, we'll ask you if you actually want the job. So please feel free to self-nominate, or somebody speak up and nominate somebody else.
I think we should ask people if they have an interest in doing it.
Yep, anybody have, Mary? Do you have an interest in being our and I'm gonna use this fantastic for everybody, so nobody feels left out, but do you have an interest in being executive staff, secretary?
Looks like she might have frozen.
Either that or she's so stoked, she just is she's overwhelmed with her. Okay, so while she's sorting that out, does anybody else here today interested in being part of the executive staff, have the time for it, and would like to nominate, self-nominate, nominate somebody else for secretary? Please, please.
Oh, she's back.
Mary's back.
Mary. Mary, you were so excited that you froze in excitement, so I'm coming back. to
Oh,
you.
sorry. No, I've been having issues with my internet today. I am, but what you described today is way more than I thought it was. In previous boards I've been secretary of, it's basically been minute taking. So I'm sorry, I'm stepping back a little bit from my offer, because I don't believe, especially since I'm so new, I don't believe I have the time or facility to do that right now. I'm really sorry.
Okay, I understand that. Just so you know, I think that, we really don't have much to do outside of, so for example, I think Todd, in the last 4 meetings, I think Todd has crafted me, letters of appreciation, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, but there's meeting,
Yeah.
there's extra meeting.
Right.
3
So,
times a month.
so the same thing that Jeanette and I volunteer to do, as you all volunteer to come here and do, yes, we do also volunteer a 1 hour of our time, a week before and a week after, to prep for this. So, somebody.
I'm sorry, I'm that wasn't in my mind when I
Yep.
offered to do it.
Nope, I totally understand. Now you kind of understand the breadth of it. If somebody, if somebody wants to take it on a trial run, see how it works out for you.
I want to just let Mary know, because she doesn't necessarily know. Katie's been doing it and does an excellent job. And Katie is there at those meetings and is staff for the county. So don't feel guilty. It's been working fine in that way.
So I'm a little.
Well, and-
I want to clarify just one thing, because last time, did I hear that Katie might continue to do minutes and send stuff out?
Yes, but she's also going on maternity leave. So the importance to us right now is to have somebody that nobody can replace our Katie. But we really need somebody that, as she goes on maternity leave, we will be down, and it's a considerable burden on Jeanette and myself, to be able to do this. So this is where we're looking to our own board to say, hey, look, yes, the county staff has been fantastic to us, but when moments like this come up, we really do need a secretary. And,
So-
and
so-
that person can work with county, as far as what needs to be done and printed out and whatnot. You're not gonna have to print things out. You can forward that off to the county.
Isn't there someone taking Katie's place while she's on maternity?
Yeah,
leave?
so here's the thing is, I believe the real effort is less about minute taking and more about correspondence. Because what the chair and vice chair have been doing is drafting all of these documents that are that we've been handing out. The annual report, drafting, well, all the documents that you've been reviewing have been drafted by the chair or vice chair. And so staff will handle the minute taking because we have to go through the different reviews and that type of thing. So we can handle that. Now, I mentioned the planning meetings and the debrief meetings. I don't know that it's necessary for the secretary to participate. I know that it would be valuable for them to be able to hear and discuss the direction of the committee. So the committee can make a determination if the participating in the planning and the debrief meeting causes a burden, then, you know, the committee determine that, but I think it's more of the drafting, less of the minutes, but more of putting a draft together so that the committee can review different material.
Yeah, we finally need to be in compliance. We're not a full executive committee. We're we're not fully staffed. And we really would like somebody to come on and fill that secretary slot. Anybody?
I've been on several county boards and they do not have a secretary.
Let's, in the interest of time, because we've got 40 minutes and we still have, a few things to cover, we may want to table the nomination and election.
Okay, so this time I'm gonna table that, but hopefully everybody will consider, and we'll talk about it next month. We're gonna move to committee business. Follow-up discussion on Commissioner Jackson's visits. As kind of previously discussed, we have crafted a letter, or a certificate of recognition, because I think it's very important to me that everybody has an I Love Me wall and in their office so that they can have a document that says Certificate of Appreciation for Commissioner Jacqueline Jackson. And so you could see it online.
They won't be able to see
Oh,
it.
good, yes,
Point of privilege.
yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure, did the lights go back up or
They went down.
are they dim?
Yeah, it's not you, it's us.
I think they were. Thank you.
Yeah, they were
Thank
done.
you. Thank you, Todd. So thank you.
I love when you
Madam
say point of
Chair.
privilege.
I know.
Actually, totally. We need that little cheat sheet again.
I borrowed Susan.
I know, but you did. I'm such an advocate of having, these kind of documents so that, somebody comes into a, individual's office and like, oh, Committee of Persons with Disabilities, what's that? It's the easiest way, for this committee to be more visible within, and outside of our own space. So every time somebody.
Gorgeous.
Thanks. So every time somebody comes and presents, that's going to go to them. So that they understand we totally appreciate their time, volunteering to come out here. And then, so that we have more outside recognition, for our own board. Committee presence at future board meetings.
That was a suggestion from Commissioner Jackson that we take turns going to the Board of Supervisors
That's right.
meetings, either
That's right.
in person or virtually.
Yeah, she, that honestly never dawned on me. So if anybody at any time presents themselves at a, board meeting, that of course this isn't ours, come back and tell us about it. Tell us what you learned, tell us, how our committee can, within our scope, within our mission, if that's something that you were so blown away by that you want to talk about it so that we can, slot that forward.
Todd, can you let Phyllis back in? Or is that not correct?
So she's the.
Interested.
And
Okay,
he what?
sorry, Michelle, I noticed that we had a guest who was trying to gain readmittance. So I
Oh.
just asked if staff could please admit her, but Katie was one step ahead.
Community recognition, so I think that was the same sort of concept with the, no.
So the community recognition was, again, Commissioner Jackson mentioned that what they did was to recognize people and organizations in the community that made a difference, that made an impact on the community of people with disabilities, or if they had done something that they wanted to provide some level of recognition or honor to, there'd be an opportunity. They were doing that as their committee. So that was, those were a couple of items that came up as opportunities for this committee to do.
So if anyone comes up, obviously keep it, we're nonpartisan, so keep all those things in consideration. And if there's somebody out in the community that is just absolutely killing it for the ADA disability space, let us know.
And it may not be a bad idea for them to, if it's someone that you think might want to come and present. And then when they come to present, then they also are gonna get the recognition for coming and presenting, if that's, it depends on how your committee decides that you want to honor
I think
people.
it's a lot bigger press to do it in front of the Board of Supervisors, that you have an official, like leadership kind of award or whatever, and it could be an annual thing. But, it's done often, you know, they have like a Ken Johnson Day at the city, and the city council represents and says it, and a certificate, and the Ken Johnson shows up, and, you know, the committee or members are there, and I think it'd get a lot of bang for your buck on stuff like that personally.
So I will tell you, now that we know you're in Joel Anderson's district,
Well, every district can. I'm in District 2 now. Oh, no.
she was like, Carolyn, I'm in your district. I know. Oh, that was awesome. So I will tell you that Joel Anderson has and forgive me for not remembering the exact name of it, but it's like a Hero Service Award. And apparently I'm in the running. Yeah, apparently I got some folks that emailed in and put my name on the list. So so there are supervisors that actually have that, and it's almost like the veteran of the year. In 2014, I was the veteran of the year, and they flew me up to Sacramento and shut the whole thing down, and my name was in the big board behind the diocese, and it was so rad. Yeah, it was so that experience is so, and it's so rewarding, it's so gratifying. So those things are, you're absolutely right. In front of the Board of Supervisors is the most impactful for us here locally. Yeah.
Umberto, do you have
Committee though.
Do you have some recommendations on how the committee might get involved with proclamations, resolutions, and that type of thing?
Todd, my magnifying glass is missing. I'm just gonna,
Oh.
before they close,
Okay, yes,
I'm gonna
certainly.
go down to the board office.
Did you have any input on that,
Me?
based on your background?
Oh,
No, I meant Umberto.
Oh, okay, no.
No, I think we're on the right track. Definitely should consider, I think, proclamations, depending on the factor. I think they do them regularly. I think it's one way of recognizing I think that's a pretty high honor to, receive a prop, so that'd be something on the list. I think this tickets are pretty nice. It'd be a matter of just coming together and choosing one way of recognizing.
So 2 years ago, if you look up a gentleman by Eldon Garrickson. Eldon Garrickson was a World War II veteran, flew in Saipan. I put him in and got a proclamation. So it ended up being Eldon Garrickson's Day on his 100th birthday.
Wow, very cool.
Right, and you're absolutely right for proclamations, because it's one of the things, many people may struggle with legacy, and how do you do that, if you don't have children, or if you're, a whole host of things. And proclamations are such a way to create a legacy, that can't get knocked down. So I think proclamations are pretty fantastic of an idea.
Do we need to have a motion?
And just one other thought, and they don't have to be presented during the board meetings, but at least obviously that's a.
Right.
But I think supervisors would be willing and able to do, proclamation and present it here, and they can come here, or somebody from their staff or something like that.
Yeah, so Joel Anderson
There's
had,
ways to do it.
Joel Anderson had done the proclamation for Eldon. And I had the whole entire San Diego Fire Department, San Diego Police Department do an honor pass around his house. So thousands of people went around his house on his 100th birthday. The Union Tribune came out, did a great story on it. So you're right, they don't have to be at the board. They can actually present outside of the board supervisors to proclamate. Yeah.
From a privacy standpoint, please don't send any police or fire engines to my house. Just for the record, if you want to have a Todd Hood day. But let's go on with the items, because we had one more.
Yep. Okay, so we're coming to something that is relatively exciting. I'll do something really quick. The boards, commissions, committee, and orientation debrief. I'll make it kind of brief because it's brief. I was on that orientation. Anybody can actually go through the orientation, and I recommend doing it because it is.
I did it.
I did it.
Yeah, so probably not.
Did it? I was on the call with you.
Were you? Okay, so were you on the call?
I was not.
Oh, busted. No, but next time, absolutely try and be on it. It's once a year. Super informative. Okay, ready? That's done. Okay, great. Live Well Advanced Conference. I really, really, really hope, the last, event, I think it was Live Well, Chair and I went, and it was only her and I, and that was great because we get along so well. But I really, really hope that each of you can spare an hour, 2 hours. You check this out. Check out what I did for you. You get free parking. You get, your gas is paid, so like you were being at a meeting here. Lunch. Hey. Free lunch. I think there's one more thing. Bless you.
And you get the benefit of participating in the Live Well Advance.
So that you get to participate. And so far, I think it's only us two again. And
No, that's what Cameron is.
So yeah, how about we have Cameron's gonna present
got updates.
the
What's the date?
It is
November 21st, the week before Thanksgiving.
Maybe you can make it back a little bit.
Wait a minute, I said just first.
Oh, my bad. We'll sort that later. We'll sort that offline.
What day of the week?
Thursday. Yeah, so it's the day after our meeting here.
Okay.
Will be the Live Well Advance. So, yes.
Wait a minute, you said the 21st.
The 21st
of November.
of November.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be the.
Yes. November. Thursday, November 21st from 8 to 4. But it's a loose 8 to 4. Yeah, so we've got Sue
is gonna be part of the Connection Hub booth. I'm so excited, and thank you for sending me the specific times as well, so I've got you in those slots. Then we've got Jeanette, and of course we have Dr. Smith. Do you know what time you'll be able to attend until?
So I think I'm opening and you were later in the day?
Yeah.
Right, so whenever it starts, so you said it started 8 to 4.
We'll need to set up starting at 7.
Okay, so 7 it is.
And-
7, what time do you wanna?
Well, I was planning on being there for lunch.
Mhm.
So it'll be 11, I'll get there at 11,
That'll
and
be
then
the
you go
overlap.
after lunch.
Yeah.
You can leave after lunch.
Yeah.
And then I'll be there and help break it down.
Okay, so we'll have the overlap. I'll have you like 1:30 then, Dr. Smith, that's how late lunch goes, is to 1:30. You wanna be there that late?
Well,
February.
I indicated that I could do during the keynote time. I don't want to show up at 7.
No,
But I could do, and I can't do setup or breakdown.
Yeah.
But I definitely offered at 9 to 10:30 slot.
Yeah.
When is the keynote?
It's an
9.
educational,
It's at 9.
No,
9.
yeah, 9, 10:30 would be perfect, so that'll give me the opportunity to kind of migrate around. Right, so, I could do 7 to, say 11:30.
Great.
Okay.
And I can also cover some part, right,
Awesome.
this second I need to look at the timing and transportation.
Okay, sounds good. I'll follow up with you.
I'll be glad to do that.
Okay.
And I would love to connect with you about how I can support, because I won't be able to be there in person, but that doesn't mean that I don't still want to be part of it and, helping with the work and the ideas or.
Coming up with a game,
We have
a game.
We've got it.
Yep, it's
Tom squared us away on that
Yeah.
long ago.
quite low key, very accessible for engagement, which I really like. So it's just a question and answer, like a flip card. And that kind of leads me to our goals that we came up with. So we have 5 main goals, and different ways that we're gonna measure them. Again, very, very like straightforward, which I love. So the first one is that we're gonna promote disability awareness. And we're gonna do that by playing the game and seeing, I'm gonna count how many pieces of candy we have at the start of this. And then by the end of the day, I will count, what do we have left? So how many pieces of candy did we give away as a result of people playing the game? Good job, everyone. Goal 2 is gonna be to promote committee awareness, and we'll measure that by the number of flyers that we give away. Goal 3 is going to be recruiting volunteers, or that just means people who want to be part of
The committee.
committee, yes. And then also recruiting meeting guests and speakers. And those both will be measured just by the number of contacts that we receive. And then lastly, we're going to have a goal of participation in the Live Well Advance, which will just be measured by the number of sessions that committee members attend. So that's the other part of it, is if there's any interest in attending the event itself. Like, I think Sue, you have a few that you're interested in, so you're working your volunteer time.
I've
around.
just sit in a couple of different workshops.
Yeah. That's great. So
so the presentations start at 8 or they start at 9
they start at 9,
and run until,
4 o'clock.
all the way till 4?
Yeah.
And so breakdown is really like 5.
Breakdown is only 3 to 4. They specify that we can have someone there, but we can be breaking down from 3 to 4. Just great.
Would you like to at least consider keeping up mind, and if you'd like to participate, let this lovely lady know?
Yeah, for sure. My schedule's just work schedules.
Got it.
A challenge, but I can definitely look at my.
Awesome. Thank you.
And you have my phone number?
I don't know if I have your phone number.
I can give it to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it on.
Can you please silence all phones? Cameron, can you tell me where?
Yeah,
the
my
parking is
ride
gonna
is
be?
coming, so I don't have a choice but
Well,
to.
just vibrate it, can you please? Put it in your pocket and vibrate it. And you can feel it, and we won't have to hear it.
All right, so what was the question on?
She was asking for parking.
Where it is.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I will get that to you.
And I think we're gonna get it.
It's a big deal for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I have to be able to get into it. Have an accessible spot, hopefully. And, I was just down there at the rain show and I realized how critical that is down there for parking. And all the different garages and lots and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's
Go
all,
to.
yeah, I'll look into that. Let you know.
And again, just as a happy reminder, to go, that you will get your mileage reimbursed.
I heard that.
I just want to add that tone. So it's like, love it.
You said it twice. now, thank you.
All right,
I like the camouflage.
yes.
It's really good. Really nice.
Yes.
It's my favorite color.
It's also one of my favorite colors, so that worked out. It's also one of the county's colors, so.
And it
everybody
just, it's so clean and it's, you did great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
did great.
appreciate that. I had no idea what I was doing. so-
Glad you didn't take any of my, glad you didn't take any of my suggestions, because it worked great your way.
Michelle, it's a really pretty blue, by the way. A deep sky blue.
That's Tiffany blue, almost.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Okay, we've got 20 minutes.
All right, so.
Round out with the blue envelope.
Oh, yeah. we
Please.
want-
Oh, go ahead, yes.
Yeah, please share that.
So, we are also, I know that, I thought like Lieutenant Cole was on earlier, I don't see them anymore. But we are going to have some sheriffs come and assist at the booth for giving out information on the blue envelope program. So rather than just having materials, they're actually sending a couple of people who know a lot about it and are gonna be able to be with us during the day and talk about.
Are they single or?
We'll find out. But yeah, they have a nice rotating schedule. There'll be primarily 2 of them. But there's a couple of people who have been doing it for a long time, and so they're gonna be training somebody up. And so it shouldn't be too crowded. The people who know more will leave once they get their mentee ready to go.
I think Sergeant Pike, I think it was Officer Pike is gonna be there, I believe.
Would you do me a favor? They had a change of guard from Lieutenant Raleigh who came and presented to us, and I believe it's a Sergeant Reeves, but somehow in that transition, we were not invited to the last stakeholder meeting. And, it's just been a little bit of a challenge to have that, make sure that remind whoever is the person sending out the information for stakeholder meetings or updates, that if they could remember that we're here and we care, even when they bring somebody new in as their point person, that would be lovely.
Well, actually, so Cameron is working on the Live Well Advance activities, but we'll be able to when, you won't be, you're gonna, no, you're not gonna be able to. So maybe,
We can get
maybe that can be
information.
taken up with, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, that would be good.
You're awesome. Thank you so much. Agenda 11, annual report, Board of Supervisors.
This is the same, report that I think had been sent out earlier. I lost
Yes.
track.
Yeah.
The only difference was that I took, Todd's, the part of the bigger annual report, county annual report that Todd wrote for our committee and, created the introduction. I think that's the only change, because I looked at the list of everything you'd identified and made sure that it was consistent with what was on here. And I think that was the only change.
The formatting seems off.
I was actually gonna add that, in this document, you have the tracking still turned on, because you can see it on the map.
So what I did, the reason why the formatting is I made it larger font so that everyone would be able to have that. And yes, this I did. So when I did make that larger font and then removed some of the spaces, that gave the formatting. So you'll see that. But the most important thing is if what the committee wants to have in your annual report.
Formatting
So-
can be dealt with.
Yeah, so this actually looks fantastic. Thanks for adding the intro. The only thing I saw was turn the tracking off when we submit the final, but it makes sense why that happened, so I'm stoked about this, good job. As usual.
What is the tracking?
Tracking is when you're editing a document that somebody has sent to you and you want to make changes, so it's it
Oh, I
allows,
see.
it allows for the adjustment of the document.
And it identifies what changes have been made.
Yeah, so it red tracks
Yeah.
and underlines and underscores and all those things. Anybody got questions, comments, concerns?
I think it's very nice. I like that, there's the speakers and then there's the, activities in which we also, participate.
Do we need a motion on this?
Do we need to approve this?
Yes.
I think we're there,
Okay.
okay. Anyway,
Motion to approve the annual report to Board of Supervisors.
I'll second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstains? Motion carried, fantastic.
All right, so we will prepare this in a format without the formatting issues, and then we'll have a cover letter that will need to come from the committee and then be presented to the Board of Supervisors.
Do we have a cover letter in queue somewhere so that we don't have to? If somebody's, I mean, if not, say no.
There is not a cover letter hasn't been drafted
Ah,
for the
So I'll write the
for the annual report.
unless you want
Doesn't
to
it
draft
just have to say, here's our annual report, please enjoy?
All right, want to do it then? Okay, good, good.
I'm happy to.
Okay. Number 12, new business, future agenda items. We, Office of Emergency Services, Flood Emergency Fire Preparedness, we wanted to have these departments come and present, of course, because A, as we went through fire season, B, we're now going through the rainy season's going to come. Do we have any?
That will be a future agenda item, so no necessary discussion on.
Anything else on that?
Yeah, I've been so excited, but I'm glad you clarified. I've been excited for them to come in and present to us, but I didn't realize that it was a flood emergency fire preparedness special presentation. But I wonder if it's not appropriate to also ask somebody to come who might be from the policy department, because recently I learned that every municipality relies on the Office of Emergency Services to provide the mandated policies for every city's firefighter paramedic response. And I was told by one of our city's paramedic departments that there is no service animal part of that. And so it then is up to each city or municipality to decide if they want to have something about service animals in their training. Obviously, service animals are required under the Americans with Disabilities Act to be able to stay with their handler to and at the hospital, pending very, very, very small, unusual circumstances such as needing to go to the burn unit or the operating room. So having them come out and be able to start a conversation or have somebody just, I think you guys understand what I'm saying. If we could have somebody come and we could talk to them about the value of having a prepared service animal response in a interaction with a person with a disability who has a service dog.
So we're still looking to schedule a time for them to come, so that will be an opportunity.
Thank you so much.
All right. Anybody, do we have, sir, do you have anything you need to add,
Nothing at the moment.
young lady?
No, other than, the Office of Emergency Services, if it's for the county, because I worked with them when I was, with Red Cross on, disability related issues. They're gonna know we are the committee on, for persons with disabilities. I'm assuming, Todd.
They've already been presenting, they presented to this committee.
Saw that in the annual report. And I'm wondering if it's been a whole year, if we really need them again, but they will know all about evacuating people with disabilities, aging, all kinds of things, including certainly shelters who are run by Red Cross usually have all kinds of policies on allowing service animals. So I assume that will take care of that issue, and then do we still need them? Because we did have a presentation.
Well, this item is for the committee to hear what were some of the statistics around the flood emergency that we had, that the county experienced, as
Oh.
well as what are some of the lessons learned. And then the chair said, well, we also want to have something around, since they're coming, something around fire preparedness, since we were getting into the fire season.
Okay.
And the other thing that you guys, that you may or may not know is that, there's opportunities that if you are, most of you know, I lost my home to Hurricane Hillary. Lost the entire house, lost everything in it. There are thankfully, the board of supervisors had, passed, a amendment or whatnot, that exempted, rebuild permit fees. And if you've ever had to rebuild anything, they're up to $10,000. And, so luckily I got the exemption for it. So they wiped it to zero, which was amazing because, on some storms, if a presidential declaration is not made, you only have your insurance. And if you have a actual disaster, your insurance doesn't go very far, even if you have premium insurance, because I had a 25% kick and that didn't cover it all either. So some of this is a little bit personal, so that maybe there's whatever we hear from these folks in regards to the disability part, maybe there's other things that we could think about down the line that they'll tell us about where we can conceptualize, you know, hey, maybe exception for, I don't know. I just made that last part up. I have no idea.
So we're about 8 minutes.
I know, but I was making stuff up to cover the last 8 minutes.
So we don't have to last
It was a
until
joke,
5.
five. Oh my God. So thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate your.
No, I mean, did you want to check, because you were going down?
Oh, yeah. Thanks a lot. See,
Jessica?
that's what happens when you.
Jessica, did you have anything?
I see that we had a guest on the meeting and we don't have too many guests from the public, so I'm not sure if Phyllis had an opportunity to introduce herself or anything like that, but if we just have a second, then maybe do that.
Hi, Phyllis.
And she might.
And you're on mute, so if you'd like to unmute yourself and let us know. Say hi. Maybe not.
She might be in the middle of something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, thanks for being
Yeah.
here,
Thank you, Phyllis.
Phyllis.
And then, Jeanette, did you have anything?
I had nothing to add.
I have nothing to add, although you guys are all awesome and thanks for showing up. Michelle. Okay, Todd, anything?
No, thank you.
Katie. Lovely lady, and I keep forgetting your name because,
Cameron.
you know,
Cameron.
yeah. Thanks everybody for coming. Again, I really wanted two things. Please reach out to your supervisor and remind them if you have vacancies, so that we can fill this board. Please send your supervisor an email, let them know how many slots are available. Part of it, Todd and I had discussed really quickly, is that we're coming on elections. And so if that person doesn't win again, then there's no reason to do that. But just be mindful of the fact that even after the elections, please send whoever your new or old supervisor is, please let them know that there's vacancies here and we need that to get squared away and them to promote somebody and get that squared away. Also, I really hope to see all of you at the Live Well, of course. Happy early Thanksgiving to everybody. Thanks for being here.
Well, we'll know who's won by the time our next meeting is. So adjourn.
By adjourn.
Second.
It won't be certified by then, Todd.